5 World Cup titles, more than any nation on earth, the most naturally gifted footballers the game has ever produced. And yet, Brazil have not won a World Cup in 24 years. Let that sink in for a second. 24 years, 6 tournaments, and in 5 of those 6, they did not even make it to the semi-final. This is not a team that has been weak. This is not a squad without talent. This is Brazil, the country that gave us Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, and now Vinicius Jr. And yet, every single time the tournament reaches its critical moments, they are gone. So the question I want to answer today is not, can Brazil win the 2026 World Cup? The question is this: why have Brazil, the most decorated nation in World Cup history, developed a pattern of failing at the exact moments that matter most? And does Carlo Ancelotti's squad have what it takes to finally break it? Because if you look closely at the evidence, there are 3 problems that have followed Brazil through every tournament since 2002. 3 structural issues that talent alone cannot fix. And all 3 are present in this squad heading into 2026. Let me show you. The first problem is the simplest one, and the one nobody wants to talk about. Brazil have not had a reliable number 9 since Ronaldo retired from international football after 2006. Think about what Ronaldo was. 8 goals in 2002 alone, the tournament's top scorer, a center forward so dominant that defenders had to change their entire game plan to contain him. When Brazil had Ronaldo leading the line, they had a reference point, a focal point, someone who could win a game from nothing. Since then, who? In 2006, Brazil had Ronaldinho, Kaká, Adriano, one of the most talented squads ever assembled. Adriano was supposed to be the next great number 9, but he was not fully fit, not fully focused, and Brazil were knocked out by France in the quarterfinal. In 2010, Brazil relied on Luis Fabiano, who was solid but not special, knocked out by the Netherlands. In 2014, on home soil, they had Fred leading the line in a World Cup semi-final. Fred, against Germany. The result was 7-1, the most humiliating defeat in Brazilian football history. In 2018, Neymar dropped deep, Firmino played false 9, Belgium outplayed them in the quarter-final. In 2022, they went out to Croatia on penalties in the quarter-final without a convincing striker delivering across the tournament. 5 tournaments. No Ronaldo. No World Cup. Now the counter-argument is obvious. Neymar. And yes, Neymar is Brazil's all-time top scorer with 79 international goals. He is in this squad. He says 2026 is his last chance. There is a real emotional story there. But here is the part people keep missing. Neymar is not a center forward. He has never been a center forward. He is a creative attacker who drops into space, who needs freedom, who needs other players around him to function. And for all his brilliance at club level and for Brazil overall, his World Cup record as a game-deciding forward is not what his reputation suggests. In 2014, he was injured before the semi-final. In 2018, he spent large parts of the tournament on the floor. In 2022, he had moments of brilliance, but Brazil still went out. Neymar is one of the greatest players of his generation, but he has never been the consistent World Cup winning number 9 that Brazil desperately needed. For 2026, Ancelotti's expected front line is Vinicius Jr. on the left, Rafinha on the right, and Matheus Cunha through the middle. Matheus Cunha, a player who has performed excellently in the Premier League, but who has never been tested in a knockout World Cup game. And Morocco are waiting in Group C. Morocco, who reached the semi-final in Qatar 2022. The striker problem is real, and it has never fully been solved. But here is where it gets interesting, because the second problem is not about attacking talent. It is about the one match that changed everything, and the psychological weight it still carries. The 7-1. Belo Horizonte, July 8, 2014. Brazil versus Germany in a World Cup semi-final on home soil. 4 goals in 6 minutes, 7 goals in total. The most watched football match in Brazilian television history, and the most painful. I am not bringing this up for nostalgia. I am bringing it up because of what it did to Brazilian football structurally. After 2014, Brazil cycled through managers: Dunga, Mano Menezes, Fernando Diniz, Dorival Jr., with no settled identity, no clear tactical system, no consistent style. For 12 years, Brazil have searched for who they are. The Jogo Bonito era was over. The The pragmatic era never properly arrived. What replaced it was confusion. Carlo Ancelotti was appointed in May 2025. He is Italian. He is the first foreign manager Brazil have ever had at a World Cup. And that fact alone tells you how desperate the CBF were. Because for Brazil, naming a foreign manager is not just a tactical decision. It is an admission. An admission that the Brazilian way, for the last 12 years, has not worked. Ancelotti is one of the greatest managers in the history of the game. 5 Champions League titles in 5 countries. Nobody questions his credentials. But he has had less than 13 months with this squad. His preferred formation is a 4-3-3 that relies on positional fluidity, and he is asking a squad of players who have mostly played under different coaches, in different systems, in different leagues, to suddenly function as a unit under a system they are still learning. In his early games with Brazil, the results were mixed. A goalless draw against Ecuador in qualifying, defensive frailties that were not typical of how Ancelotti's club sides performed. There are signs of improvement, but there are also genuine questions about whether 13 months is long enough to build the kind of tactical cohesion that wins a World Cup. Now, the strongest counter to this is simple. Ancelotti manages elite players. He won the Champions League with a Real Madrid squad that had Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, all operating in a flexible system. He has done this before at the highest level. And in many ways, his man-management approach, giving stars freedom, building trust, could be exactly what Brazil's squad needs after years of tactical rigidity. I think Ancelotti is the right man, but the timeline is tight. And that brings me to the third problem, the one that is the most uncomfortable to say out loud. Brazil have a knockout problem, not a group stage problem, not a talent problem, a knockout problem. Since 2002, Brazil have exited at the quarterfinal or earlier in 4 of those 5 tournaments. France in 2006, Netherlands in 2010, Belgium in 2018, Croatia on penalties in 2022. And in 2014, they reached the semi-final and lost 7-1. The pattern is consistent. Brazil arrive at tournaments as favorites or co-favorites. They progress through the group stage. They reach the knockout rounds. And then, against a well-organized European side with a clear tactical plan, they fall apart. Why? Because Europe evolved. The pressing game that teams like Belgium, France, Netherlands, and Croatia now play in knockout football is specifically lethal against technically gifted, attack-minded sides that do not press hard themselves. Brazil's stars are brilliant in open space. Against a high block or an organized defensive structure with quick transitions, they struggle to break the game open. And in a single knockout game, 1 chance, 90 minutes, no second attempt, those tactical vulnerabilities are exposed at the worst possible moment. The 2022 quarterfinal against Croatia is the clearest example. Brazil were the better team for large portions of that match. Neymar scored in extra time to make it 1-0, and then Croatia equalized within minutes and won on penalties. Brazil had the talent, they had the lead, and they still lost. Now, Ancelotti's 4-3-3 is designed to address exactly this. Bruno Guimaraes is one of the best defensive midfielders in European football. Casemiro, when fit, is one of the most experienced big-game players alive. The structure is there. But structure built over 13 months against structure built over years, that is still a gap. So here is where I land on all of this. Brazil are not a weak team. They are not going to the 2026 World Cup to make up the numbers. Vinicius Jr is one of the 3 best players on the planet. Rafinha is in the form of his life. Ancelotti is a genius. This squad has the quality to win this tournament. But the problem is not quality. The problem is pattern. And patterns do not break just because a new manager arrives or a new tournament begins. They break when the specific structural issues that created them are solved. The striker dependency, the tactical identity, the knockout mentality. In my view, Brazil under Ancelotti are a genuine contender, a top 4 team at this World Cup. And if Vinicius Jr produces his absolute best in the knockout rounds, the version we saw at Real Madrid in Champions League nights, Brazil can beat anyone. But can they win it? Based on everything we have covered, I think they are still 1 piece short. The striker question is not fully answered. The system is still betting in. And Europe's top sides have beaten Brazil in 4 of the last 5 knockout meetings. This is Brazil's best chance in a decade. Ancelotti might be the man who finally solves it, But the problem is real, and it is deeper than most people are willing to admit. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Brazil finally end the drought in 2026? Or does the pattern repeat one more time? Drop your prediction in the comments. I read every single one. Everything I have said today is based on verified reports and available data at the time of recording. If the facts on the ground change, or if I have missed something, the comments section is open. Good analysis gets better with better information.